Hey, 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 good morning. Good morning, wherever you are. Good morning. Holy moly, rock and rolly. It's noon and it's Wednesday. My name's Ron Williams. And if you're with me in one of our groups today or out on Facebook or out on the web someplace, then welcome. Love having you here. And I've got some exciting stuff to share with you guys today. So before we get rolling here, as we're getting started, got some really, I think, valuable information that's going to make you some money. And so before we do that, though, let me real quick. Okay, you know what? Elka's here, guys. Elka's here. Be like Elka and tell me you're here because I would much rather be able to say hi to you than not say hi. So put a comment in. And one of the things you got to do, thank you, Elka. I'm excited to see you. Elka, we need to catch up too. We got stuff to talk about. So a lot that's going on. So across the bottom of your screen there, you see that little scrolly thing. They call it a scrolly thing. It's a technical word for it, the scrolly thing. So go to www.streamyard.com/Facebook and then okay that your Facebook can connect with this software that I'm using, which is called StreamYard. Doesn't cost you anything. You only have to do it once, by the way. Once you do that and you okay it, then from there on out, you can be like Elko. And you can just like hop in on any of these sessions and say hi and tell me who you are. And so would love for y'all to do that. StreamYard.com/Facebook. So with that out of the way, and I know you all can do it. I'm going to leave it scrolling here in case somebody comes in, so please join the conversation. Okay. So I can see you and say hi. So good morning, you guys. I hope you're having a blessed week and I hope you're having an amazing week wherever you are. It's almost spring, isn't it? I love this. I love this. This is like the best and the worst time of the year because for me, it's I'm excited about getting out and planting tomatoes, and Cindy's excited about doing her yard and getting all the gardening going and going on walks and love it getting outside, especially when we're in Illinois where it's just like cold through the year and through the whole winter. But it's the worst time too because it's like, come on, you give us little teaser days here and there. So hello, Facebook user. Go down to StreamYard.com/Facebook, join and click that. And then I won't rudely call you Facebook user anymore. I'll say hello and whatever your name is followed with your name. So guys, good morning. My name's Ron Williams and I'm the founder of one of these groups that you're in. I'm the founder of Hoodle. And I don't know if you're familiar with Hoodle, you might be seeing this different places. I'll show you what Hoodle is in case you don't know. And if you don't know, you need to know because this thing is blowing up. And if you want to be in new construction, it's the place to be. I'm just telling you, it's the place to be. We're changing the game. And not me, you, the realtors that are part of this are changing the game for tons of new construction buyers and for builders and developers. And it literally is disrupting the way that buyers buy new construction. So if you're not part of it and you want to find out, well, what's that mean being a part of it, then reach out to me and I'll tell you. But anyway, I started this as a realtor and I'm not going to talk about it today. What I want to talk to you about today is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart and hopefully to yours as well. Have you ever had it happen, Elka, or Facebook user, or any of the other Facebook users? Because I can see some of you are here. And by the way, I would love for you to say hi. I don't enjoy just talking to myself on camera, so I'd much rather talk to you if you're there. And step out of the from behind the bushes and wherever you are and say, hey, I'm here. Make yourself known. Okay. So have you ever had it happen where you kind of believed something? You believed that things were a certain way. Okay. Maybe you'd heard, have you ever heard a rumor that somebody told you a rumor about somebody? Okay. Tell me if this ever happened to you. Okay. Somebody told you a rumor about somebody. Oh, man, this person is like, Yeah, never ever want to talk to that person because they're just, they're bad news. And then you meet this person, and it's like, what in the heck? I've been believing this all this time about this person or about this situation or about this whatever. And that's not the way it was at all. That was not my experience with it. But I falsely believed some misinformation, or I believed a rumor that caused me to act a certain way, or not act a certain way. Does that make sense? Elka, have you ever had that happen? Has anybody ever had a Facebook user? Have you had that happen where you misbelieved something that was told to you, a mistruth, a misinformation? You had a false belief about something, and because of that, maybe you missed out on a good opportunity. Maybe you missed out on a chance where you could have built a business relationship. You could have built a friendship. You could have served a new client. You could have made some money. You could have just things because we had false beliefs. Well, I guess probably, thank you, Elka. Guys, be like Elka. The Elka comments. So thank you, Elka. So, it has happened to all of us probably many, many times, many more times than what we care to admit. It happens that we're going to call it a false belief. Facebook user says yes. Facebook user, it's happened to Facebook user. So thank you, Facebook user, for sharing that. And it happens, where we believe something wrongly. And because of that, things are not what they could be, or what they could have been. And so always in life, we want to make sure that we're operating on correct information. And we can't just always go with the first thing that somebody tells us. Just saw my daughter yesterday, and she told me about somebody told her something about something else, and this was last night, and I was like, honey, don't go just because somebody had a bad experience with something. You can't automatically paint the world that color, right? That this is the way that situation did. A lot of variables. Maybe the person you're talking to was in a wrong frame whenever that she went through it. Maria, thank you, Maria. It's good to see you, Maria. Sort of see you, sort of. So thank you. So it happens where we have these situations that we've been told something and we just take it as true because, well, I know Maria's true. And I know Elka wouldn't mislead me. I know you guys wouldn't. But there are times when we are wrongly informed, okay? So the thing that we always got to do is try to get to the truth, right, about a situation and that's what I want to talk to you about today, is dispelling a few myths that come up and continue to come up related to realtors and new construction. I think that's Maria. Maria, yeah, that looks like Maria. Maria's smiley face. So, there are times when we as realtors, I say we, I don't have my realtor's license anymore, but where realtors are falsely believing something about new construction, about builders, about developers, about new construction buyers. I heard another one that I heard yesterday that this one goes around a lot, and I want to get into this one, but have you ever heard the phrase buyers are liars? Buyers are liars. Well, if a deal went south, well, that's because buyers are liars. And that's one of those things where it's not only, it can be true, but most often what's true is that we as the salesperson just didn't ask the right questions. We didn't drill down into the situation well enough. And so we were kind of falsely believing something about a situation. And then if it doesn't work out, then buyers are liars. So that's one of those misbeliefs, okay? Buyers can mislead you, but generally they won't. But that's not our topic today. Today, we want to talk about specifically what are some false beliefs that realtors hold sometimes, a lot of times, maybe most of the time when it comes to new construction. And I wrote down, there's more of them that we're not going to be able to get into, but I'm going to hit several of them as quickly as we can here today, because I want you to reframe your thinking on these things and go grow your business, okay? And there's some of these myths we just need to put to bed, put away, dispel, and move on to growing our business and getting on with life. Okay. And so these are several common myths about realtors when it comes to new construction. Now, they're not in any particular order, Maria. Elka, we're going to I'm just going to start with one, and we're just going to move through and talk about these. So number one that I wrote down, let's see, which one do we want to start with? Let's start with this one. This is a big one. Now raise your hand or tell me, everybody that's here, tell me if you've heard this before. Okay. If this is a belief, now you don't have to hold this belief, but if you've ever heard this, okay, builders hate realtors. Builders really dislike realtors. Builders don't, there's a lot of different forms or versions of it. Builders don't want to work with realtors. Have you ever heard that? Anybody ever heard that? Okay, so Facebook user, I think that looks like Maria, maybe. Somebody raised their hand. By the way, if you guys are here and you can see that scrolly thing, that's the technical word for it at the bottom, go to that StreamYard.com/Facebook. And once you do that, I will never ask you to do it again. Never. Because anytime you come here, we'll just be able to talk like normal human beings. Facebook user also said yes. So builders hate realtors. Builders don't like realtors. Builders don't want to work with realtors. So that's a very common one that I hear all the time. And probably any day that I get in, if I have the opportunity to get into any of the Facebook groups for realtors, there's somebody talking about, when they're talking about new construction, builders hate realtors. It's not true. Okay, so it's not true. Now, it may be that builders have a different expectation about who they hope that we are as professionals. Maybe they have, and that doesn't mean we have to agree with all their expectations either, right? But Kim says, hello, everyone. Did I miss you? Oh, my gosh, Kim, you missed so much. I just think I just said the most profound thing that ever came out of my mouth, but you missed it. So the truth is, a lot of times, realtors think that builders dislike realtors, and that builders dislike realtors. Did I say that right? And it's just really not true. It's not true. Now, it is true that a lot of times realtors had a bad experience with a builder, or builders have had bad experiences with realtors. And we have to recognize that those things happen, and a lot of times they happen for reasons. And so one of the things that we're doing with Hoodle and with the affiliate realtors is we're showing how, we want to figure out how and show you how you never need to do that. You really never need to have a kind of a dumb bad experience with a builder, as a realtor. But they happen a lot because of miscommunication and because of misunderstanding. So, but I want to start with that myth number one: builders hate realtors. Now, a lot of times we can point to things. Well, builders trying to, the builder wants to negotiate my commission, or a builder wants to reduce the commissions they're paying to a realtor. That's a whole nother matter altogether. And there are times when builders are trying to reduce the commissions that they're paying to realtors. That doesn't mean they hate realtors. It just means that they, for whatever reason, they believe that they can keep more profit on that house. And their business is just like us. They've got tons of overhead. I'm not saying that they should. I'm not saying that you should. In fact, I don't think you should. And save that for a whole other topic. But if you negotiate some other commission, or if they try to negotiate some other commission, then whatever commission you thought that you were going to get, number one, we don't have to buy into that. Okay. And it's up to the realtor to keep your value high and to show why your value is what it is. All right. But that does not mean that a builder hates realtors, or because a builder doesn't want to list a house with a realtor, it doesn't mean that the builder doesn't like realtors or doesn't want to work with realtors. It may just mean they don't want to do it right now. Or it may mean that, they want to find a realtor that they have a different type of relationship with. But I'll tell you this, the 79%, not my data, but from NAHB and NAR and the groups that study all the stats, I believe it's 79% of all new home transactions. So let's just round that to 80, okay, just to make it easy to remember. 80% of new home transactions across the United States, there is a realtor involved. in one side or the other or both. 4 out of 5 times, okay, there's a realtor involved. So we can't really say that builders don't like realtors, don't want to work with realtors, hate realtors. None of that. It's just not true. And if you have that belief, I would write it down and then cross big lines through it. Get a big black marker, make lines through it. Not true. Write it down, cross lines through it, and write the proper belief. Builders want to work with a certain type of realtor. Builders want to work with a realtor that specializes and understands new construction and understands their business. And that is as well as a whole other topic. Let me catch up here on a couple things. Kim's catching up. Elka said, yes, especially when it comes to builders don't want to pay a realtor commission. Yeah, we've heard that, and a lot of people believe that. And kind of the thing on this, Elka, is that any business and anybody, if they can do a job themselves, then, we all have the option within our business or within our lives to know, let's say taxes are coming up, right? So we have the option of hiring an accountant or being our own accountant, right? Let's say we've got to do something. We've got a legal matter that we got to deal with. Sometimes we have the option of, do I want to work with an attorney? Do I want to represent myself? And so there's always those options that does not mean that the builder's a bad builder, doesn't want to work with realtors, hates realtors. It simply means if they feel like they can keep a little bit more of their profit, or they need to keep more profit because maybe they don't have as much profit as we think they do in that home, in those houses that they're building. So myth number one that we're going to dispel right now: builders do not hate realtors. They do not, maybe they've had a bad experience. Many of them have. We'll save that for another conversation too, because there's a whole interview that I want you to learn how to do with builders and developers that will help you reframe the way you're thinking about your relationship with them. So Kim was in a meeting. She's catching up. She's probably all caught up now. Dennis, just met Dennis Waller today. Dennis, welcome aboard. Dennis just became an affiliate realtor about 15 minutes ago, Dennis. And so, and we had a great conversation. We'll probably have another one this afternoon. Kim says, Ron, sidebar, can I trouble you for any notes you have? Can I upload them into the file? Notes. You wouldn't be able to read my notes, Kim. Not on this one. So, but if I type them, yes, I'll upload them, and maybe I'll get to the place where I can get them all typed up. On this one, I don't have slides on it. Dennis said, thank you, Dennis. Yep. And Kim says, welcome. So, all right, so that's myth number one. Now, quickly, myth number two. Let's go to the next one. The house costs more if there's a realtor involved. Have you guys ever heard this? Have you ever believed it? The house is going to cost more if there's a realtor involved. Okay, I'm gonna put a line through the number one there, and line through number two. We hear that all the time, and in fact, a lot of times realtors are guilty of believing that, and there are people that will promote that belief. Well, if you go with a realtor, we're going to have to charge you more because we got to pay a realtor commission. That is not the way it works. It is not the way it works. Now, I know that there are times when there are people that are kind of doing a shell game. Well, if you don't work with the realtor, we could do this, we could do that, we could do the other thing. If, another way that they could say that is, if you are unrepresented, if you don't mind being unrepresented and not having representation on your side of this matter of building a new home, then we'll, do this, that, or the other thing for you. Here's the truth of the matter, okay? And I've had this conversation with numerous builders. And I remember one in particular where I met with a builder, and we were out in his neighborhood. A wonderful, amazing builder, by the way, here in Central Illinois. Known him for years and years, just one of the most genuine people you'd ever hope to meet. And he's also a developer. And we're out in one of his neighborhoods, and we're standing in the street, and I'm asking him on this topic. And his name is Paul. And so we're looking at two identical houses that Paul has, up. He's got them listed, or he's got them built, or he's finishing them up. Identical houses. And I asked him the question. I said, Paul, I got to know something, because there's this thing going around. I hear a lot of realtors saying, well, the house is going to cost more if there's a realtor involved. And what he said to me really began to reframe the way I was thinking about it. And I've always found this to be true afterwards. He said, Ron, these two houses right here, we got a house 1 and we got a house 2. Okay. He said, let's say house 1, I list with a realtor. And so I got a commission that's due to that realtor. Okay. He said, house 2, I had a buyer come in and buy it on their own before I've got it listed with a realtor. Okay. I said, can you sell house 2 cheaper than house number 1? He said, I can't, because he said, now, on house number 2, the one that was not listed, he said, I'll keep more profit. But that doesn't mean I can turn around and give the realtor commission that I was going to pay to the realtor back to the buyer. He said, because it'll wreck the basis points of the whole neighborhood. I can't have 2 identical houses and this one costs, $5,000 or $8,000 less than the one right next door that's absolutely identical. You can't do that. In fact, as I began to understand this, and I started talking to more and more builders about it, and I interviewed a lot of builders about this topic, and every one of them would say, no, I don't do it. I don't recommend it. If it ever happens, that's a builder that I as a builder or I as a developer don't want to work with, because it's unethical. So that's the way that it's been told to me. Okay. Now, I realize that a lot of times there are salespeople and there's situations, and well, we could cover your closing costs. We can throw in the refrigerator. We could do this, that, and the other thing. And then not only about realtors, but if you use our mortgage company, that's a whole other topic I don't want to get into today. But if you use our mortgage company, man, we can sweeten the deal. But the truth of the matter is, the house is the house is the house. Now, if the buyer goes in on their own without a realtor, they don't get that house a dime cheaper. They just are going through the process without representation. So I want you guys to understand that. Write it down. Understand it. If you need to, and I always recommend this, go out and interview some builders on it. Find 5 builders and talk to them about this topic. I really want to understand this better and see what you learn. Then come back to me and tell me if it's any different, if you learned anything. But, absolutely, we need to understand that, because not understanding that, a lot of times realtors are like, well, I don't know whether to try to represent the buyer or not. I'm not sure it provide any value. It's going to cost them more in the house. No, it is not. It's not going to cost them more. They're only going without representation, and they get the same house, same price, but they don't have anybody that's looking out for their best interest. It doesn't matter. Doesn't mean the deal's going to go bad or anything like that. It doesn't mean that the builder's bad or anybody's trying to be underhanded or anything like that. That's all I'm saying. What it does mean is the buyer does not have representation on their side. Okay. So that's myth number 2. Myth number 3, moving right along. Okay. This is myth number 3, and it kind of goes along with myth number 2, and that is the buyers don't need representation. Now, we hear this a lot. I hear it a lot from realtors. Well, do buyers really need representation when it comes to a new construction transaction? Is there any value? Do I provide any value to that buyer once I've got them registered? I told them the neighborhood to go to, and I told them here's the builder that I recommend for you. Maybe I just need to step out of this and show up at the closing table. And I tell you what, builders don't respect that either. Okay. So builders do not want to work with all the builders that I know who want to work with a professional new construction realtor that gets it, that understands their business, understands new construction buyers. They understand this process. And by the way, it's a different process than it is with used buyers, with pre-owned home buyers. It's a much different process that everybody needs to learn if you want to specialize in new construction. But I have many realtors that will say, well, once I register them, there's really nothing for me to do. I might as well just, make myself scarce until the closing table. Do not do that. There are some people that even teach that. And I'm sorry, I just flat out disagree. If you do that, you're basically indicating to both to the buyers that you're supposed to be representing, that you're getting commissioned for registering, you're also saying to the builder and to the sales reps and everybody else, you know what? I got nothing to do here. Just, mail me my check or I'll see you at the closing table. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're missing out huge opportunity with the buyers, with the people that the buyers know, with the builder, with the developer, with everybody. So yes, you represent value, real value, as a fiduciary, as a guide through the whole process. I remember when I started Hoodle, there was one realtor, I'm not going to mention her name in case she sees this, because I love her to pieces. But she said, when we first started Hoodle, she said, and I said, well, what do you think about this? She said, well, I'm not sure what I think about it. She said, you can tell everybody where the builders are and who where the neighborhoods are and who the builders are. And I said, yeah, they deserve to know. And she said, well, I don't think I like that, because then why does somebody need me as a realtor? And I said, well, wait a second, your fiduciary responsibility doesn't begin and end with, hey, there's the neighborhood where you can build that house. That may be where it starts, but that's not where it ends. And there's a whole lot in between. Hey, there's the neighborhood and there's a builder that you can go with, and the closing table. There's a whole process that involves a lot of decision making, a lot of choices. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I not do that? A lot of stuff, inspections, the whole thing. So absolutely, you need to be involved through the whole thing. You provide a guidance. And by the way, new construction buyers want a guide. They want a fiduciary, maybe more than pre-owned home buyers. It's a different process. It's a complex process. And they're, most of the time, they've been dreaming about it for years, but they're a little terrified of it. They want somebody who's going to guide them, who's going to hold their hand. And here's a good way to think about new construction for buyers. I've had many buyers where we had interviewed them and say, what's this experience like for you? And so I love talking to buyers. By the way, that's a great interview for you to do as well. Write down 4 or 5 questions and start interviewing buyers who have gone through or going through the new construction process, or buyers who want to, but they haven't done it yet. Okay, write down some questions. We can do a session on this sometime, because you'll walk away after you talk to 5 or 6 or 8 of these, and you'll have a completely different language around it, and you'll be a different kind of realtor when it comes to new construction. But where was I going with that? Elka, I lost my train of thought here. So the point was, I asked buyers, what's this experience like? You know what they compare it to? When you built your first house, what was it like? And people will say, it was like when I got married. I didn't know what to expect. Another thing they'll say, it was like when we had our first child. We were excited. We were thrilled with it. And I'll say to people, did you go out there very often? Oh yeah, we were out there every day. We were like bugging the builder too much. We're taking pictures. It's a big deal. And here's the key words to write it down. It's a life experience. 60% of people, of buyers, 60% of home buyers in general, have a dream home. They want to build. And but they're nervous about it. Your responsibility is to be kind of the midwife. You're part of your job as a fiduciary is to walk them through this process and go, look, there are things that could go wrong. There always are. Well, there's everything in life. But I tell you what, I'm going to hold your hand through this whole process, because that's what I do. I specialize in new construction. I don't know everything about it. I'm learning all the time, just like you are. But this is where I specialize. And Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I just got to tell you, if you want to build, I'm your huckleberry. Okay, I'm going to be with you through that whole process. So Elka says, this great, hitting some good points, and that people miss. New construction can be just as complicated as pre-owned. It can be. It definitely can. And thank you for that. And Kim says, is there a different buyer agreement for new construction properties? Different buyer agreement. I don't think that I've got a good answer for that one, Kim. I'll explore that, because the reason is because I never used a buyer agreement. I just never did. I trusted them, and we had a verbal agreement. And so I know in some states and some realtors and brokerages, you got to have that buyer agreement. I never did it. So I wouldn't guess that there is probably. But, there is this, Kim. We need to educate our buyers, our new construction buyers, on why it's important for them to have representation. And we need to talk to them about, well, what does that mean exactly? And, I have a lot of times where, realtors will tell a story. I represented a buyer, and then they, happened to drive by the neighborhood, and they drove in, and hey, let's stop in this house, and they lost the buyer. And I don't, there's some bigger issues here that we need to talk about sometime, because, and I want to bring some builders into it too, because, I want to get the builder's perspective on this, because I think there's, we're doing a disservice to the buyers when there's an adversarial relationship between the builder and the realtors. And so that's a whole other topic. So, but I don't use buyer agreements. I'm not saying don't. If that's what you do and you feel comfortable with those, then do it. But here's the point. Number 3 was buyers need representation, and they need you to be with them through that whole process. That doesn't mean you have to be like, hammering the builder or anything, but you need to be with them and help them think through the process, especially when it comes to understanding timeframes of when certain things have to be done. Where can you learn that? You can learn that from the builder. Tell me about your construction process. This is another interview that I do with the builders, and I recommend you do with builders. Love your homes, love this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be having some buyers that I'm going to be representing to you here, John, coming, in the next few weeks or the next couple months. Would love to know a little bit about your construction process. And so you start learning the way they think about it, and what are the time frames when they need to be making the decision on the cabinets, or the appliances, or whatever else it is that they have as decision points. Okay, so understand that process. The more you understand that process, the more you're adding value all the way through it. And when you do that, by the way, the buyers or your buyer clients are going to reward you with more referrals, because new construction buyers talk to each other. They talk to each other. If you go through a whole new home neighborhood sometime and start going door to door, I've done this, okay? Go through a new home neighborhood, knock on the doors, and start to meet some people who have built a new house, and ask them, here's a good question to ask them. I love to ask new construction buyers, well, tell me about your experience, what it was like. What were the pain points? What worked well? What didn't work well? Was it a good experience? How would you rate it on a scale of 10? And what would you do differently if you were going to build again? And one of the questions I love to ask new construction buyers, how did you come upon or decide on this builder or this neighborhood? Was it through a realtor? Was it through, and listen to what they say. And, or how did you research when you're doing your research about where you want to build, who you want to build with, what you want to build, what you want in the house? How do you do your research? And you'll find out something that is so prevalent. New construction buyers talk to other new construction buyers. They are a community. They have a loose network, and they're doing their research. And, so point is, if you represent a buyer, new construction buyer, well, where they really feel like, hey, you went the distance. Kim did it, Elka did it, Dennis did it. He walked me through that whole process. I owe him a debt of gratitude. They're going to reward you with more and more referrals than you know what to do with, because that's the way it operates. There is a network that's already there. So that's number 3. Number 4, let's see here. Which one do we want to do next? Okay, number 4. Number 4. A lot of times realtors believe that the builders that I really ought to go with, that I ought to be going after for doing business with, are only the biggest builders in my market. So realtors tend to believe that because this company, that company, that company are big production builders, they've got top of mind awareness. We all know of them. We know their neighborhoods. They've got a website. They may have a beautiful website, generally do. They may have 10 or 15 or 20 neighborhoods. And so what happens is, because they have top of mind awareness with us as realtors, guess what? They also have top of mind awareness with the buyers. And so when we're thinking of, well, which builders do I want to represent this buyer to? What we tend to do is we go with who we thought about. And I'm not going to mention companies because they're different in every market. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And production builders are very, very good. They know their business. But if if you want to move on to the listing side, and you want to move into more of a what I call a builder marketing partner relationship, don't only think about the biggest production builders. Don't. You shouldn't anyway. Because to the buyer, one of the things that buyers don't understand is new construction buyers. If you went and interviewed buyers about or talk to them about the difference between a production build process, a semi-custom build, or a custom build, they generally don't understand what the differences are, and a lot of times realtors don't either. So that may be something we want to talk about at another time. One of our classes is to really get into what are the differences between those. But here's something that is true. Well, not that the other isn't, it all is, but here's something else that's true, is that buyers generally want to have the way I think of it is their signature, their fingerprint on the design process. The reason they're doing new construction is because they can afford to have a few choices and they want to have some choices. So what that means is most buyers would prefer to work in a customer semi-custom situation. Not all buyers. I think 46% of all home sales, new home sales, at least last time I checked this particular stat, 46% were production builds. So that means 46% are production neighborhoods. So what's that? 56% are people that are going into smaller, mid-sized neighborhoods, working with smaller, mid-sized builders. The problem is, for us as realtors, is a lot of times realtors thinking, well, I got to just go after this builder. They're the biggest. They've got 20 neighborhoods. They've got lots and lots of homes going up. I'm not saying don't do that at all. But I am saying, keep in mind that many times the small and the mid-sized builders are flying under the radar. They're not as known by the buyers or the realtors. And many, many times I have conversations with builders. They're like, man, I don't think most of the realtors even know that I exist. So we don't know that, but they do. And that's their perception. Therefore, if you want to win some of those business deals and become a guide and a consultant and a fiduciary and what I call builder marketing partner, you have a very big opportunity with small and mid-sized builders. Okay. Biggest builders, it's probably easier on the buyer side to represent the buyer. But if you want the listing side, small and mid-sized builders, I'll save that for another conversation. That's number 4. Number 5, and we're getting down to the last couple here. Okay. Number 5, this is a big one. I have a lot of times where realtors will say, I can't really do new construction because I'm not experienced in new construction. It's not true. Not true. And we have lots and lots of realtors that we're teaching this process to that are straight out of the gate, no experience in new construction, walking in, having 1 or 2 conversations with a builder, with a developer, and next thing you know, boom, you're listing a property. You may be listing multiple properties. And there is a big myth that I hear realtors saying all the time to other realtors, realtors, I'll see realtors I'll see a realtor post in a Facebook group. Well, how do I get started with new construction? Other realtors, you can't, you got to be experienced with new construction or they're not going to work with you. Not true. Just not true. Absolutely not true. So do write that one down, big black line through it, and write the truth. The truth is that builders want to work with realtors who are serious about new construction. Okay. And, sometimes it's actually in your favor that you're new to new construction because you're not already, coming with these preconceived notions that they feel like is going to wreck the relationship. So, hey, Facebook user, glad to see you. And I don't know who you are, but would love for you to tell me who you are. I'm glad you're here. So, so number 5 was that realtors tend to believe that, well, I got to have new construction experience to do new construction or to work with builders and developers. It's not true. Cross the line through it and throw it away. And if you want to talk about this, I'll show you a new way to do it. Okay, that absolutely will just knock your socks off, because builders want to work with the right realtor, and it's less important whether or not you're new at new construction or even new as a realtor. Hey, I've shown a lot of realtors that are brand new as realtor how to do new construction. I mean, brand new. They've got, a week or 6 or a year under their belt, no new construction experience, hardly any real estate experience or realtor experience, that they're walking in, taking a new approach, and they're walking out with business, and they're developing those relationships. So get rid of both of those. Those are kind of 2 myths: that I have to have new construction experience or that I have to be tenured as a realtor. Neither one of them are true. Okay. Hey, RJ, glad to see you. And don't know why my name's not showing up. So RJ, down at the bottom of this screen, you see where it says StreamYard.com/Facebook. If you go to on another tab, don't do it right now, but go and OK, where your Facebook and your StreamYard is going to operate together, and then you won't be a Facebook user anymore. And I'll be able to say, hey, RJ, thank you. So where are we? Last couple ones that I want to talk about. These are big ones. One of the myths that, and I'm going to throw 2 things in here that I hear realtors saying a lot of times, is in order to be successful with new construction, you got to have a big team, or you got to have a big marketing budget. You got to have a lot of marketing dollars. Builders aren't going to work with you if you don't have a big marketing budget, if you don't have a big team, or you're not part of a big team. I have found those to be absolutely not true. This is not true. Builders, if you build a right relationship with them, and it does involve doing it a different way than the way most people are teaching it, okay? But when you learn how to do it, you learn the keys to working with a builder developer. They don't care if you're new at new construction. I mean, there might be somebody that does, but as a rule, they don't. That's not a dominant factor for them. If RJ sold 20 new construction homes already, just not. And if it is, I'll show you how to move past that anyway with any builder if that ever comes up. But it's not going to. So it's not about how much experience you have in new construction. It's not about how much experience you have as a realtor, as long as you understand the basic tenets of real estate. It's not about how big of a team you have. It's not about how big of or a part of, or how big of a marketing budget you've got. It is, though, about being, 2 words, new and different. It's about having a new approach and a different kind of approach. So we're going to dispel those last 2. And there's 2 more. I'm going to give you 3 more, actually. Here's one. You don't have to be married to the builder, okay? You don't need to be the builder's son or daughter or sister-in-law or spouse. Now, it could help, but then you're kind of locked into just selling that one builder, right? If you don't like get into a relationship just so you can get a listing, okay? And well, now I'm gonna have to marry this builder so I can list their neighborhood. I don't recommend it, because then you're kind of locked in on that one neighborhood. So that is absolutely false, and you hear that a lot. And the last one that I'm going to give today, and thank you so much for being a part of this. And by the way, I want to share with you guys a couple of links here real quick. So before I give you the last one, let me give you a couple of links that you ought to check out. Here's one. If you haven't done this already, go grab this. See that scrolly thing at the bottom? That is the technical word for it. Scrolly thing. Go to New Home Niche Blueprint. Not now. Give me 5 minutes. We're wrapping up. Go to that website, New Home Niche Blueprint, and download the ebook. It's called 7 New Construction Buyer Problems. And when you do this, it's a fast little read. Watch the videos that go along with it. There's 7 videos. There's 7 buyer problems that new construction buyers report. When you start to watch this and start to wrap your head around the buyer journey with new construction, it will change the way you operate in new construction. It's going to change the value you're bringing to it. It can change the way you talk about it. and it's going to make you a different kind of realtor than every other realtor in your market. So go download that book, watch those videos. And one other link I'm going to give you here is this here. If you're already in the group, then you already know about it. But if you don't, I definitely recommend that you, I'll show you where it is here. Right there. So newhomenicheblueprint.com, and hang on a second here. That is our web page or Facebook group for realtors that want to learn new construction. Even if you haven't joined up with Hoodle, which I recommend that you do, but even if you haven't, I would come join this group. There's a lot of value that I'm trying to provide every week in here. We're actually getting ready to start doing interviews with industry thought leaders. That's going to be a lot of fun, and just incredible insight that so many of them have that we all can learn from. So be sure to grab those couple links. If you're not in the New Home Niche Blueprint Facebook group, join that. And the last thing that I'm going to tell you, okay, this is the last myth, and you may have already heard me talk about this before, but and we posted about it recently. Oh, hang on a second. There's a comment here. I think this is RJ. Okay, RJ says, quick question. Is this a niche you should focus on buyers rather than, in this niche, you should focus on buyers rather than sellers? I don't think so. I think, RJ, you know, that's a great question. I'm going to leave that up for just a second here. So, you know, RJ, as a broker of a transaction, I'm going to take it back down. I'm a go-between between two parties. You are too. As a realtor, you are bringing together two parties to make a win, right? And as a realtor, and so I know this is like, you know, basic stuff, but it's really important to understand. You know, you're bringing together a buyer with a seller, and when that comes together, you get paid, right? And you could be on the buyer side or you could be on the seller side. Now, always in traditional real estate, it's general, and especially in the market today, it's easier to get the buyers than it is to get the listings. That's why so many realtors, when they start, you know, they start with going after buyers and learning how to attract buyers and secure buyers as clients. Some never graduate to going after listings. You know, they don't feel like they know how to or something. And that is especially true in new construction. So that's a good one right there that I should have listed as well, RJ, that a lot of times realtors think, well, you know, on new construction, I'm only operating with the buyers. Nope, I don't believe that. I'm going to write that one down. If I ever do this talk again, I'm going to add that one in. Now, that may be the place where you start, but one of the things we're doing with Hoodle, and one of the things that I'm constantly coaching on, is how to start moving on to the other side, because you want to work with the sellers as well. By the way, with new construction, there's actually 3 different entities, not 2. You know, with selling a used home, you've got buyers and you've got listings, and the listings we call the MLS, right? So you have the demand side and the supply side, if you will. And my job is to be one of the realtors. Maybe there's 2, one representing one side, one representing the other, but I'm one of those realtors who's bringing that thing together. That's what the broker role is, and the realtor role. With building, there's actually 3, if you think about it. There's the buyer, there's the neighborhood, and there's the builder. And I realize that a lot of times the neighborhood and the builder are the same, but not always, and not even a majority of the time. A majority of the time, it's not the builder and developer. There might be a developer who represents a neighborhood. There might be a builder or multiple builders that are building in that neighborhood. So, you know, I'll save that for another talk. But when you understand that, and just understand that basic thing right there, it will multiply your opportunities. And we could talk an hour just about that one thing right there. We don't have time for it today. So, so the last thing that I want to say that you might have heard me talk about before, and that is that, and this is a big error that realtors make when it comes to new construction. Thank you, RJ. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're part of what we're doing, and I'm excited to work with you. So here is maybe the biggest one. I don't know, you know, but it's a biggie, that realtors, when they're going after builders and they're going after creating a relationship with a builder or a developer, tend to talk about two things a lot. And the reason I know it is because builders tell me this all the time, and realtors do too. But realtors try to sell two things: bigger and better. Well, I'm with a bigger brokerage. I'm part of a bigger team. We've got better training. We got better ink for our flyers. We got better signage. We got bigger, better, bigger, better, bigger, better. And those words, I think, probably have caused many builders to like fall asleep or go numb because they hear it from every realtor. So we're going to eliminate those from our vocabulary. And the thing that we want to do is we want to replace bigger, better with new and different. Okay. Now, you can't just say, well, I'm new. Well, I'm different from the rest of them. There has to be something behind that new and different. And by the way, if you ever want to know about it and you don't know about it, there is this website that we put together called Hoodle that is absolutely new and absolutely different. And then everything we teach you afterwards every week is going to show you more and more how to be new and different and take a new and different approach. When you start talking to builders about new and different, they sit up and take notice, okay? Because they realize that the industry as a whole is kind of stuck in the past and it needs to move forward. And so take bigger and better, cross it off your list, okay, and replace it with new and different. How can I take a new approach to working with builders? How can I take a new approach to working with developers, with new construction buyers, or with new construction in general? And that's everything that we talk about every stinking week. Not, I mean, they're good weeks. They're not stinking weeks, but so anyway, it's not bigger, better. It's new and different. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this. I really was planning on wrapping up in a half hour, and I went long. And I hope you got something out of it. But more than anything, if you did get something out of it, I hope you do one of two things or both. I hope you go out and apply it. Take one thing that you got from this and go figure out how can I use it, okay? And get out there and start having conversations with builders and developers and new construction buyers, because you will learn so much so fast. And you're going to be coming back here in a few weeks or a few months. I'm going to be asking to interview you because you're going to have a story you want to tell me about. And I want you to share it with everybody so that everybody knows. So go apply it, number one. Number two, if you got something out of it, share it with somebody. Let's don't hold it like this. Ooh, I know I can have an edge over all the other realtors. Let's hold it like this, okay? If you got blessing, if you got goodness out of it, then give it to somebody else, okay? Because we live in abundance mentality. We don't live in a scarcity mentality. There's a lot of opportunity in new construction. There's a lot of opportunity for you. So thank you so much for being here. Absolutely love you guys, and can't wait to meet each of you face to face one day. Hope we're going to do that soon. And if I don't, feel free to reach out. We can always get on Zoom. We can get on a phone call, and I'm here to help you guys. So you're amazing. So go be amazing for somebody else. And with that, I'm out of here. We'll talk to you later. Bye. See you tomorrow, RJ, Zoom, and all the affiliate realtors. Join the class. See you later. Bye.